Hey kiddies, it's Triple Feature Tuesday once again, and this week we look at comic book actor redemption.
Just like starting over.
That's right, with the impending glory that will hopefully be Captain America Civil War. Man, this movie better be good or else we're all going to be in trouble. I decided to look at some movies where the actors were in previously bad comic book movies, but then got to be in good comic book movies. And funnily enough, they're not always Marvel movies being the good movies, so it gives us some hope for us all. I have to give credit, Steven came up with this idea, but I thought it was a pretty good one. So, it's interesting because comic book movies have become so ubiquitous now, this probably isn't that big of an idea as much as it used to be, but there was a time, just 8 short years ago, when comic book movies were still pretty rare. They were coming out more, but they weren't putting out 2 or 3 a year. So seeing an actor appearing in another comic-based movie was something of a big deal. I think before the big Marvel boom, one of the few examples I can think of was Sam Jones was in. He was the original. He was Flash Gordon in the movie with Max von Sydow, and later was in a TV movie version of The Spirit, so he was playing 2 pulp comic book characters, but other than that, you didn't really see it that often, but now it's everywhere. Everybody has to be in a comic book movie. It's sort of like Asian people having to be in a martial arts movie, German people having to play a Nazi at least once, or, I like to think of them as the modern American equivalent of Westerns, because back in the day, everybody was in at least one Western. Dean Martin was in a Western at one point. He was being Dean Martin, so he was great. But now everybody has to be in a comic book movie at some point in their career if they want to, stay in the pop culture. We're going to go in order of increasing disparity between the original movie and the subsequent successful movie. So our menu is going to include Captain America the Winter Soldier, Iron Man 2, and Deadpool. Oh, Chris Evans. Chris Evans has really turned acting in comic book movies into his own, complete side project that keeps everything else afloat while he does other things, and hopefully he's rewarded monetarily for it, because most of the time he's doing a great job. And as near as my count, he's been in the most movies based on comics, being in at least 12, if not 13 of them. So good on him. And though Chris has a lot of success now playing Captain America every couple of years, his original comic book movie was the second Fantastic Four movie. We always still have to count the Roger Corman produced movie that was never meant to see the light of day. Chris Evans starred as Johnny Storm in the Tim Story adaptation of the Fantastic Four, which just wasn't a good movie. Look, it's funny because a lot of the times the things that go wrong in comic book adaptations is you don't stay true to the source material, true to the characters. You usually have a good, if not straightforward and simplified plot that will carry you through it. This one was different because the characterizations, with a couple exceptions, was pretty solid, especially Chris Evans as Johnny Storm. He was really great. He was one of the highlights, along with Michael Chiklis as Ben Grimm. Those were 2 things that I can always point to and say they were great. And everything else just sort of sucked around them. Luckily, Marvel casting directors saw the potential in him, especially after Good Turn and Sunshine, and so they made him Captain America, Steve Rogers, and Captain America the First Avenger over, I think there were a lot of other people, including John Krasinski and stuff, that were in the running. But man, Chris Evans just nails it. He is this guy who is very, he believes in America. He's very patriotic, but he's not a sap. He's not a doofus at all. He's just very earnest and means well. But he is not going to put up with your BS, so be careful, Tony. I'm looking at you. This might be just me personally. Because they get so many little idiosyncrasies from the Fantastic Four in the movie, I don't hate it as much as everybody else, especially when you consider the most recent film in terms of adapting the source material. So the gulf between Fantastic Four, the first in Captain America, while wide, is not nearly as wide as the other films we're going to be looking at in a second. If there has been one consistent shortcoming in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it is that Black Widow still does not have her own movie. Scarlett Johansson started playing Black Widow in Iron Man 2 and has been stealing scenes ever since. She is really just great. She does the aloof spy thing so perfectly. Every moment she is completely capable and usually scheming in terms of achieving greater justice. She's always got a plan, employing classic misdirection. So you're looking at this, and so you don't see that she's really doing that. And in the meantime, she's saving the day and showing how much of an amateur you really are. Just cannot speak highly enough about Scarlett Johansson as Natasha Romanoff. But it wasn't always that way. She was in what may be the flat-out worst comic book movie ever made, The Spirit. Frank Miller's adaptation of Will Eisner's The Spirit. It's just horrendous. It is so poorly thought out, and Frank's misreading of the source material is astonishing, because Frank Miller is not an idiot. He is really good at making comics, or else, or at least he was at some point. But every single decision in the Spirit movie was wrong. No, maybe not necessarily casting, because I mean, there were a lot of capable actors in that movie, including Scarlett Johansson as the octopus's sidekick, Silken Floss. But man, none of it was good. Jokes fell flat. Action was misplaced. Why was everything in black and white? The Spirit in every appearance is in bright blue, and like the world around him is in color. I don't get it. But Scarlett Johansson and Sam Jackson as the octopus, to a lesser extent, were very watchable in The Spirit, even though the movie was just god-awful. It's bad. I was like, at some point, I am going to have to actually watch Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, just to see how it measures up against The Spirit, because, I mean, The Spirit was so tonally wrong for the source material that you just, I don't, like, I understand on one level Sin City was a big hit and you want more Sin City as a movie, but why would you let Frank Miller do this to that material? Happily, Jon Favreau and the Marvel casting people realized that Scarlett would be great as the Black Widow. I mean, they both have colored first names and everything, so that works. Marvel, you need to get on it. I want a good espionage Black Widow movie already. I love that she is the backbone of the Avengers, and if you watch both Avengers movies, she is the one actually organizing everything and saving the day most of the time. So she gets front and center treatment in the group movies, but it's time to give her her own movie already, so get on that. Finally, we have Ryan Reynolds, who has not had the best of luck with superhero movies. His first superhero movie, he played a pre-cancer version of Wade Wilson, the Merc with the Mouth, Deadpool, in Wolverine Origins, which was really bad. It was just terrible. Like, not tonally horrible, like, it got, like, this is what a Wolverine movie should look like. It's just, did you guys have a script? Did you have any sort of idea? Had you read any Wolverine comics when you decided to do all this? Because none of the characters really act the way they should. The plot is contrived. All you had to do was connect Wolverine as a kid to something in the vicinity of the first X-Men movie, and the best you could come up with adamantium bullet brain damage. Good job. And one of the most egregious things was they took Wade, and at first I was very excited because Ryan Reynolds presents as a smart-ass jerk Canadian all the time. So this is perfect. Wade is a smart-ass jerk Canadian. And his scenes, he is being obnoxious and annoying to everyone. So it was just wonderful. And then they got rid of him for 90% of the movie, and when he finally came back at the end, they sewed his mouth shut. His nickname is the Merc with the Mouth. Why would you do that? It was almost like they were trying to challenge us to hate the movie more. Almost like Ryan's second foray into comic book movies. The Green Lantern film, which was supposed to be, a big tentpole DC Comics movie. DC Comics, while Marvel had been plugging away, having sold the rights to just about every other studio and getting, mixed results. For every good Marvel movie, there was a bad Marvel movie until Marvel Studios came about and started consistently producing movies that were good adaptations of the source material. And oddly enough, when you make a movie that looks like the thing people have liked for 60 years, it turns out well. DC, owned by Warner Brothers, they all have... Warner Brothers are the only studio that makes DC comic properties, and by and large, all they were doing was stuff with Vertigo, which, while fascinating, wasn't really getting asses in the seats like superheroes. So, finally, let's do something that's not Batman, let's do something that's not Superman, Green Lantern, let's really jump in. And they made that movie. A movie in which fearless test pilot, a man whose courage knows no bounds, who is scared of nothing, within 20 minutes of getting the Green Lantern ring, gives it up because he's too scared to be an intergalactic space cop. Great. On top of bad villains, bad plotting, bad characters, just Green Lantern stunk out loud. You wouldn't have blamed Ryan for never making another comic book property again. But he ended up making that R.I.P.D. movie, which is based on a comic. I have neither read the comic nor seen the movie, so I'm not going to comment on that. But all the while, he'd been trying to get people to make a real Deadpool movie with him as Deadpool, which, as you might remember, was perfect casting. And through the miracle of leaking test footage onto the internet, because Ryan Reynolds totally did that, fan reaction soared, support for the film swelled up, and we got this year's Deadpool movie, which, to date, is the best X-Men movie they've ever made, and there are only 2 X-Men in it. It was so impossibly good. It was perfect. It was every single horrible thing you want in a Deadpool movie. I saw it 4 times in the theater. It's coming out on DVD in about 2 weeks, so I am going to watch it over and over again because there's a Deadpool movie, and it was an honest-to-God Deadpool movie, and it was perfect. And hopefully this Captain America movie is going to be just as perfect. The work's cut out for him, because I'm not going to lie, I hate Civil War. I hated that story so much, because it's about superheroes that have been friends and comrades for between 10 and 30 years, and they up and decide they disagree on how to fight crime, and so they punch each other in the face until Captain America dies at some point. So hopefully this movie is going to turn out better. Spider-Man looks great. Everybody looks like fun, and it's getting good reviews, so I'm holding out hope. But in the meantime, check out half of the movies I talked about, but ignore the other half because they were terrible. And I'll see you guys next week.